नमस्ते, अस्सलाम वालेकुम, सत श्री अकाल। मैं हूं ज़रीन खान। आज का मेरा जो वीडियो है वो बहुत ही ज़रूरी है आज के टाइम में, क्योंकि आज का मेरा जो वीडियो है वो डील कर रहा है साइबर क्राइम से। मैंने एक पैनल डिस्कशन किया है बहुत ही जाने माने लोगों के साथ, जो कि हैं डॉक्टर राजेंद्र सिंह, एक्स DGP ऑफ पंजाब, मिस्टर पवन दुग्गल, जो कि हैं जाने माने एडवोकेट, डॉक्टर नवजीत सिद्धू, जो कि असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर ऑफ लॉ VIPS GGSIP यूनिवर्सिटी से, एंड एडवोकेट मिस्टर तारिक खान। ये पैनल डिस्कशन था साइबर क्राइम पे, साइबर बुलिंग के अगेंस्ट, साइबर ट्रोलिंग के अगेंस्ट कौन से लॉज हैं इन लोगों के। ये जो ट्रोल्स हैं जो सोशल मीडिया पे नेगेटिविटी फैलाते हैं, रेप थ्रेट्स देते हैं, औरतों को ऑब्जेक्टिफाई करते हैं, इनके खिलाफ क्या किया जा सकता है क्या नहीं। तो मेरा ये वीडियो देखें, आई होप ये आपके काम आए।
The topic for the discussion today is cyber trolling and prohibited content. And we have an amazing line of speakers with us today. We have Mr. Rajinder Singh, who is the DGP of Punjab. We have Ms. Zareen Khan, the famous Bollywood actress. We have Dr. Pavan Duggal, who's a cyber law expert in the country. And we have Dr. NAVJEET SIDHU, who's an assistant professor and an expert of cyber law. I'd like to start with Ms. Zareen Khan. First of all, thank you very, very much for coming here. And
Thank you for having me.
Zareen, we have seen that you have been fighting for this cause for a very long time. I mean, though we all have got to know about it very recently because there has been a discussion about cyber trolling and all. Earlier, it was only categorized as a cyber crime.
Yes.
But I mean, I have seen your show. You have in fact hosted a show. I was very surprised to know on MTV you hosted a show, Troll Police,
Yes.
if that is what it was called,
Yes.
wherein you were actually trying to find and trace these trollers and prosecute them.
Yes.
And in fact, you have also spoken and you have been very vocal about these incidents much before we got to know, because we recently got to know about it when many celebrities started quitting their Twitter accounts and started restricting their Instagram posts.
Yes.
So Zareen, I would like to understand from you as a celebrity, because
Yes.
I also got to know while reading about you that you became an actor accidentally. You did not want to become an actress.
Yes.
So you could kindly tell us, as a person who has struggled too much to reach where you have reached today,
Yes.
and how do you think that these trolls, what are these trolls? Firstly, you tell us, and what is the psychological impact of these trolls on you people, on celebrities in general?
First of all, thank you all for having me here. Good evening to everyone. Being a public figure, I think, comes with its pros and cons. And right now that we're living in a digital world, I think these people on social media whom we call trolls, they somehow feel that they have ownership on, these public figures, whether they are celebrities or any public figure for that matter. And social media, again, is a curse as well as a boon, because at one point it has bridged the gap between the celebrity and their fans, which is a great thing. You really need that connectivity. On the other hand, you have these people who are called trolls, who take disadvantage of this great thing by call it removing their frustration or whatever it is, because I feel that all of us, we live in a very busy world, all of us have very hectic lifestyles. So if I don't like somebody, I will not really take the attempt to go to that person's page from my very busy life and drop in a negative comment. I really feel that these trolls are frustrated people who in their reality are, suppressed and don't really have a voice, or do not really given, the chance to speak up. And that is how they come and remove their frustration on social media behind a faceless user ID. So, I don't really take them seriously, but I know that these people have caused a lot of harm, because most of the people really get affected by the negative comments that come to them. Like, I also, till some time back, got a lot of negativity because of a film that I did, which had a little bit of a bold content in it. So I was targeted on the basis of religion, that, I am a Muslim and how am I doing these things and blah, blah, blah. Then I have been, trolled for my body. I've been body shamed. Ke, "Arey, moti hai, ye hai, wo hai." It's, I've been abused, like the really bad ones that you have in Hindi. And I don't understand that, how do they think that it's okay? I mean, being a public figure, I am a public figure. I am not your property that you are, thinking that it's all right to say whatever the hell you want. But and I always wonder that, do we have laws for this? I mean, why and how are these people so freely just coming and, dropping such negative comments without even feeling scared? Is there no law that can really, punish them? Because, or maybe it's the lack of awareness that there are laws but people don't know, and that's the reason this is happening.
You're absolutely right, Zareen. I think that there's lack of awareness. That's my personal belief. And moving on to Mr. Rajinder Singh, who was the former DGP, and I think he's the best person to comment on this, because I think police plays a very important role. And Sir was the top cop in the state. So he knows all of this and he has a very vast experience in handling such matters. So my request, Sir, if you could kindly tell us, because like Zareen pointed, a lot of celebrities as well as the common people, even if they're not public figures, it has become a daily affair to target these peoples by somebody who's just sitting somewhere at the comfort of the zone to comment publicly on these individuals. So how do you think, so what is the right way to guide these people? Could you kindly shed some light about how, where to report, what to do, what actions should they take, sir?
Yeah, you have rightly posed to me that where we should lodge our complaint. National Cybercrime Reporting Portal is there. They have classified these matters in 24 items. They're quite wide classification. I think everything can be covered in that. So one can lodge complaint online on that. Every state has its own cybercrime wing. There are special cybercrime police stations. Special staff has been dedicated. Of course, with police, it has not been that big priority because police remains busy in law and order duties. This is a work which needs a very patient investigation. But I don't think that there's no such solution. We have solutions. We have been solving such crimes. We have been preventing such crimes. I think we should cause some duties on users of the phones and the computers. Said that this is the limit, this is the reasonable restriction, and accordingly we should take them to task. Police has to be augmented on this point because police, the staff is very less, and moreover, IT Act also says that inspector level officer can only investigate into the matter, not below the inspector. So we are making a lot of efforts in terms of training inputs and selecting staff, those who are knowing about IT. Incidentally, many new IPS officers are very well acquainted with IT.
Now I'd like to move to our next panelist, Dr. Pavan Duggal, who is an expert and I think one of the best persons amongst the lawyers to consult on these issues. So before I ask you a question, sir, I would like to first apprise you of an incident which occurred in 2018. The famous journalist Nidhi Razdan, she received death threats and various other threats on her Instagram account. And when she in fact reported to these intermediary, because the cyber trolling and bullying, it takes place on these platforms like Twitter, Facebook and Instagram, because these are the intermediaries which link a user to these celebrities and to these personalities. And it's a platform. So what do you think is the role and responsibility of these intermediaries in curbing this kind of bullying or trolling? And do you think, because the way I see it, currently there are no guidelines in place, but these self-regulated guidelines which have been framed by these intermediaries, like for instance, Instagram had that if there is any content which is about any physical harm or any violence against a person, we will remove it. But the moment you report it, I personally have felt it, that when you're reporting it, the standard response that you get is that this does not violate our community standards, though their policy itself says so. So how do you think we can make them accountable? Because I think they have a very important responsibility, sir.
Thanks. There's no to denying the fact that intermediaries have such an important role to play in this entire ecosystem. But unfortunately, the intermediaries today have merely restricted their role to being that of a mere spectator. And the reason for that is thanks to a judgment of the Supreme Court. Well, just before I go to that judgment, under the Indian Information Technology Act 2000, these intermediaries are network service providers. They are people who, on behalf of another people, are receiving, storing, or transmitting data or providing services with respect to the said data. However, the issues pertaining to trolling and stalking and cyber harassment have not been dealt with under the IT Act at all. So consequently, the government till date did not really come up with any dedicated parameters to be followed by these service providers to prevent these kinds of misuse and abuse on their network. So I believe the time for intermediary liability legal position in India to change has now since come. You cannot afford to get these guys to be merely seeing things, watching them, and yet not doing anything. Because it's time that India revised its legal provisions on intermediary liability under Section 79 of the IT Act. Already the executive order passed by President Trump pertaining to limiting this intermediary liability, while it has met up with legal challenge in the US, has actually become a catalyst point.
In fact, I believe that when 66A of the IT Act was struck down by the Supreme Court in March 2015, after that we have seen there is a rise of, there is a substantial increase in such kind of cases, and cyber trolling has become a practice on a daily basis. I'm sure Zareen would agree with me that she has been trolled, or there may have been instances when, I mean, it's for every day it's become a part of their life. But now moving on to Dr. NAVJEET SIDHU. I'll come back to you.
Can I make a small comment?
Yes, sir, please.
I wish to add to Mr. Duggal's statement that we need to have a very comprehensive look into the IT Act. We have agencies in the IT Act, like regulatory agencies. Their roles can be widened and their functions can be especially specified to regulate all this area.
Absolutely, sir. Now coming to Dr. NAVJEET SIDHU. NAVJEET, you have been a teacher, you have been teaching for years, and you are an expert in international law. And you have also have some expertise in cyber law, and you deal with the youngsters who are, in fact, we have seen most of these cases, the youngsters are behind it, like the recent incident of boys' locker room and the girls' locker room. And it's pretty sad because I feel that even these accused, they do not understand what they're doing, what is going to be the consequence of their actions. And when they are acting into such a manner, they're under some kind of inner compulsion to forget all that the society has. So my question to you is, how important is it to instill a sense of responsibility and awareness amongst these youngsters?
Yeah. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the team Disputandum for providing me this honor and privilege to be sharing the platform with people who are stalwarts in their own fields. And I would also like to congratulate the dynamic team for coming up with this idea of the panel discussion on such an important topic. Before I begin to answer that question, I would like to take you back to the year 2016 and October 2016, when the Time magazine has devoted its entire cover story about internet and the culture of hate. So the cover story of October 28, 2016 issue of Times magazine was titled as, "Why Are We Losing the Internet to the Culture of Hate?" Aside from the familiar Red Time title, the only image on the white background of that cover is a flame-haired, pointy-eared little troll with a demonic smirk, easily typing on a laptop. So if you look at that, the thesis of the Times special issue was that trolls are running the internet, and the way they are doing it is to pervert a technology that is well oriented towards sharing ideas, values, wisdom, hopes, by turning it into a dark, airy cyber forest where bad and dangerous things are lurking. So Trolling, therefore, is something that creates a discord on the internet by starting quarrels or upsetting people by posting of inflammatory or off-topic messages in an online community. And we all know that education is one of the platforms wherein we inculcate values in our youth. In fact, education is the building up of character, and it is at the school level wherein we start orienting our students towards how to behave and how to conduct themselves. So the online disinhibition effect that comes with the anonymity attached to these trolls, they get empowered to a large extent, and they try to take on people of all kinds and sizes, and they target celebrities, activists, journalists, feminists, and all the common people, whoever comes across them. And the impact that it can have is, we all know that people deactivate their accounts, become passive, and even slip into depression, and at times commit suicide. Yeah. So the emerging trends are very, very grim, and a role of educational institution comes in here. Many schools in USA, I would like to point out, they are implementing a digital citizenship curriculum, wherein they start at the elementary school level by providing them an orientation into digital citizenship. So this prepares the citizens, the children as citizens, to take up ownership of their digital lives. The students are encouraged to be upstanders in the online platforms rather than being bystanders. So whenever they are seeing any hateful or hurtful speech or online trolling, they're asked to stand up and speak up for the person who's trolled. And there are well-established programs which are run by Google. It is called as Be Internet Awesome. And again, Common Sense Education's K-12 lessons. So young students at schools, they learn to consider a variety of ethical approaches in the daily life, which they can bring into communication situations. So educators can help students by posing realistic scenarios that are likely to be experienced by them when they go online. So they are encouraged to then work together to come up with the words and the actions they can use to stand up for people who are trolled. So this can help the younger users of internet to feel empowered and to make the online world a better place. So this is where we can, actually help them by, asking them to think of the possible scenarios and how would they react and how would they take up that particular troll by standing up for the victim or by, becoming just a bystander. So these are some of the restorative responses that, schools and universities can potentially effectively drill in the young students. And I think by telling them that it is very, very important for them to be digitally responsible in a world, where we are living.
Thank you, Dr. Sidhu. I remember when we were young, we used to have this subject moral science. And now perhaps I understand the importance of such subjects, which I think must be highlighted in our academics. Now moving to Zareen, Zareen, recently there has been a trend that a lot of celebrities have started deleting their Twitter accounts, and they are saying that we are like tired of such hatred, and some of them are restricting the comments on Instagram. So I want to understand from you, because being a public figure, how do you feel that, what impact does it put in your personal life, or how these trolls affect your daily life, your professional work? How are you able to focus? Could you just give us some details?
Somehow for me, I tackle it in a very, not bothered kind of way, because as I said, this can be really harmful. The negativity that they spread in your comments is really, really harmful. As, Ms. Sidhu said over here, it can also lead to depression, which ultimately leads to suicide. And we lately have, a few cases of similar instances. So, well, I do not really, bother about even replying back to them, unless there is something so harsh that really needs to be replied to. And I have also understood that the moment you give them that reply and put them in their place, they don't really have the guts to come back. So maybe they do this to, attract attention. As I said, they are these ones who are really, frustrated or, suppressed by not giving them their voice in their reality. So this is how they remove their frustration here. once you give it back to them, and then you never hear from them again. So I think it is just an attention seeking gimmick that they try, that okay, if everybody is giving you good comments, how am I going to stand out? So let me put out a really harsh something negative, and somehow it's human. I mean, if you see something negative that sticks to you, that grabs your attention. So I feel that a faceless user ID should not really impact you, but right now we are living in a digital world, and if you're constantly bombarded with negativity, even if you don't want to really have it have it impact you, somewhere it keeps playing in the back of your mind, no matter how much ever you say that okay, it's not bothering, but there's something someone said that just remains, and that keeps building up, and it kind of you don't want that negativity in your life, and especially in a time like that, when everybody's already going through a lockdown, when the whole world is already going through a difficult time, and right now all we have is digital medium to connect with each other, to be in touch with each other. So rather than using that as an advantage, there are still some people who want to spread hate and spread negativity rather than understanding the advantage of the digital medium.
Zareen, I'd like to ask you one follow-up question on this. While seeing your comments on your profile, how do you differentiate between a criticism and a troll? Because there may be some times when celebrities are actually being criticized, a genuine criticism.
Yes.
So how do you distinguish, and what is the thin line? How do you draw that line?
It's the language. It's the language that is written. These trolls, they don't have any barrier. They'll actually use abuses. They'll abuse. They will not really feel hesitant in abusing your mother. They will not really feel anything in abusing your lineage. Like they even know where your lineage starts from. So they would target you on your religion basis. They'll try to come and teach you religion. I mean, if as far as I know, my religion in Islam, you're not even allowed to raise fingers on each other. So you can't, if you are not following it the right way, I don't think you have the right to even come and teach me my religion. So there are a lot, there is everywhere, I think it's just negativity. It's the frustration that they're going through in the real world, which they come and remove in the digital medium.
You're right, Zareen. In fact, I'd like to tell you all that Amnesty International had conducted a survey recently, as per which, because we know that females and women, they are the most common target of these online violence. And I was surprised to see that 70% of those targeted women, they said that we changed the way we think, and we change the way we use our social media after such incidents happen. And when we try to report it to somebody, we are informed that ignore it, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm sorry to cut you here, but I go through that so many times. And it's not just trolls, it's even being a public figure. There are so many times where, your face is morphed on a nude body and all of that on some random handle. And when you report it, I don't know if there's any action taken against it, because then they come back with some other username having the same things on it. So there has to be some definite, punishment towards it, because if there is no punishment, if there is no fear created amongst these people who are doing this, they're going to just continue doing it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rajinder Singh, I have a question for you in this regard. Though you pointed out that there are certain remedies which are available under the law, I would also like to hear the views of Mr. PAVAN Duggal on it. But briefly, if you could tell us, Rajinder sir, that, for instance, I'll give you an example. Women and Child Development Ministry had shared online, I'm sure many people do not know about it. There is an email ID which has been provided by them where you can report all online violence against women and children. I'm sure Duggal sir would be aware. But I was surprised to see that there were only 100 complaints received against these Twitter and Facebook cases. So which clearly shows that people are not aware. So Dr. Singh, Mr. Singh, can you tell us how we can actually bridge the gap between the police officers and these individuals? Because I have seen some females being targeted, and sometimes what happens is their nude photos or perhaps some morphed images are shared, and then they are scared to comment because they can't discuss it with their family. And when they go to the police sometimes does or does not help. And you're right, there is a lack of machinery. But how do you think that gap can be bridged? how a victim can easily approach, whether the police should take suo motu action. Could you highlight?
First, I address Ms. Zareen's grievance that when somebody lodges complaint, nobody knows what happened. It gets lost in the routine. This happens. Even if I send some complaint, it will happen to that complaint, the same fate it will get. It is all due to lack of priority awarded to the area of cyber crimes and cyber trolling. In fact, police remains always very heavily burdened with all kinds of duties. The law and order duties make them totally different. Rather, they are not friendly with such kind of activities. They rather lose interest in these things. We are getting at all levels, even constable to DGP level, we are getting good staff, those who are very well acquainted with IT and all this. Only thing is that their number is very small. And they also get deployed to other duties. This is one thing, this is one area. Regarding the awareness, that we should make public aware how this can be lodged with the relevant authorities. I think social media can be used very effectively, that the same mobile phone, the authorities can publicize that these are the places where somebody can approach and they can verify what has happened to the complaint. And authorities can be further sensitized that they have to be a little more responsive to the complainants.
A lot of people are not aware what is prohibited content and what is the legislative framework around it. Could you briefly tell us what is prohibited content, sir?
Well, thanks. In the Indian context, the prohibited content is referring to that content which is prohibited under law or under rules or regulations. Now, the government of India has come up with the Information Technology Intermediary Guidelines Rules 2011. It actually gives a list of these kinds of content which is prohibitive. So which should include any kind of a content which is lascivious or which is defamatory or which is effectively going ahead and infringing the privacy of a person. Similarly, any content which is against the sovereignty, security, or integrity of India is also prohibited content. Any content where you violate or infringe the intellectual property rights, whether it's copyright or trademark or any other rights of any other person, that's also deemed to be prohibited content. We're also expected not to publish or host any kind of a content which you know is false, or the effect of which is to tend to deprave and corrupt the minds of those who are likely to see, read, or hear the same. In addition, the law categorically says in section 468 of the Indian Penal Code that when you create a false electronic record, for example, you create a trolling message which is completely false, you are effectively engaging in electronic forgery. And when you do the forgery, either for the purposes of cheating, that becomes an offense under 468 IPC with 7 years imprisonment and fine. And if you do this electronic forgery for the purposes of harming reputation of another person, that will tantamount to yet another offense under 469 Indian Penal Code with 3 years imprisonment and fine. So I think what's broad in terms of what's prohibited content is what's specifically looked at in the IT rules 2011. However, when I look at from the service provider's perspective, I find that they also come up with so-called terms and conditions and community standards. Now, a lot of these contain a lot of content which may not be illegal, but which the service provider still may not want you to publish on that respective stuff. But the problem is that is when they talk about community standards, they would like to apply the US community standards for an Indian ecosystem system kind of a situation, which is completely lopsided and has completely undesirable results. So in a thumb rule, if you're doing anything which is violative of the law, if you're hitting somebody below the belt, if you're trying to rip somebody's reputation without any kind of a cogent substantive evidence, or if you are publishing content which is in violation of the law, whether it's defamatory, derogatory, abusive, humiliative, obscene, libelous, or if you're doing anything against the Indian interest in cyberspace, that will be tantamounting to prohibited content under the law.
Thank you, Dr. Duggal. I completely agree with you. I would like to move to Dr. Sidhu, and I'd like to ask her, do you think that there is lack of gender-neutral laws against trolling in India?
When specifically speaking, the laws, actually the existing laws are inadequate to deal with any kind of trolling, so to say. Because whatever laws are there in place, I think IPC is the go-to law for any person, for any woman, if in case, she's been stalked, or, her morphed pictures, or, voyeuristic messages are posted about her. So IPC again is, I don't want to go into the criminal part of it, that, how do you approach the court? But I think that we need a specific set of regulations which should deal specifically with cyber trolls and cyber bullies. And this can come from a joint, responsibility of the government and the intermediaries, and as well as the civic society as a whole. So if they all come in together and they give themselves rules, probably, even international law can actually play a part in that. They can frame a general global governance framework, and the rest of the countries can then suit these rules, can localize these rules depending upon their own requirements. So whatever laws are in existence, they are inadequate. Gender neutral or not, they are not there at all. So if somebody is told, they do not know how to approach the police, and nobody wants to go into the criminal part of it. So it should be, I think, made a civil offense, so that people can approach the court and get the desired remedy.
Thank you, Dr. Sidhu. Now, moving back to Zareen, do you think that being thick-skinned is the solution? And also, I would like to ask from you, what do you think is the responsibility of these established celebrities who have a huge fan following to convey or to take up this issue, or to tell their fans not to do such activities?
See, first of all, fans will never do these activities. They are the anti-fans who do these things, And it is true what you said, in now in this whole digital era where there is no barrier, or there is no obstacle where people can come and say anything good or bad. You have to be thick-skinned, and that's the only alternative, because people don't know of the definite laws or the definite punishments that can be given to people like that. Most of them, 90% or more maybe, people do not know whether there are any cyber laws or punishments, and that is the reason they freely come and do things like it's okay when it's not. So I think awareness needs to be created more widely, and it is public figures, celebrities, activists, and people who have big audiences. So it's their duty to spread awareness about cyber laws, because I know for a fact that not many people in our country are aware of it, and that's the reason there is so much cyber trolling and bullying.
Thank you, Zareen. I'll come to Mr. Singh. Mr. Singh, in some of the cases, what we have seen is that the servers of these websites where these kind of morph pictures and all are uploaded, they are based abroad, and they're not based in India. And how do you get that content removed? Because sometimes the police becomes helpless. A, you do not have the mechanism and the requisite knowledge. B, you don't have experts of information technology, and the investigating officers are not that aware about the technology. And the third issue is that when you ask these entities which are headquartered in other countries, then you are at their mercy. They will give you what they want, and they will not give you what they don't want. So how do you think in such cases, because the victim is, even if the complaint is pursued, then how can the police, do you think these issues are actually faced by the police, or do you think there are any solutions?
There are such issues, and the CBI is nationally coordinating with the international fora. We have some arrangements with Interpol. The 194 countries are subscribers to Interpol. And CBI, on behalf of the entire country, they coordinate. And the states also keep liaison with CBI and Home Ministry. But this area needs a lot of augmentation further.
Okay, Dr. Duggal, I'd like to ask you if you could tell us from the scratch, if suppose today I am being trolled on a public platform, what do you think I should do? If you could briefly tell us, because a lot of people are still not getting clarity, what should be the next step? Should they ignore it? Should they act on it? Could you step by step simply tell us briefly what is to be done?
First and foremost, once you realize that you're being trolled, being quiet is the worst disservice that you can do your own self. You will have to mandatorily report, because that's going to be trying to be a kind of a suraksha kavach for you. Where do you report? You can either go online. There's a governmental portal of central government, Ministry of Home Affairs, being cybercrime.gov.in, where you could go ahead and report this while sitting within the comfort of your home. In addition, there is a National Commission of Women website. You can go there. They also allow you to report these instances, and they will thereafter take action in the sense of recommending appropriate criminal action. Number 3, you must also immediately go and report to the service provider or the platform. Don't think that the service provider is too big or too huge and they will not respond. It's your reporting which is more important, not the response. Because once you report, at least it becomes within their knowledge. Also, a lot of these service platforms have the ability for people to report abuse. So if you can get your own family members, your own friends also to simultaneously report such kind of an abuse, then invariably, once a particular abuse complaints reach a particular momentum, a lot of times we find that the service providers on their own would want to just go ahead and disconnect the same. But these are no guarantees that you will get effective relief. If you're still not getting effective relief, please realize you're not going to go one-to-one with the person who's trolling you, because he wants to elicit a reaction from you. And if you're going to give that reaction, that's going to further embolden him. Try as far as possible to ignore. Don't go in for direct interaction. But supposing you find that the kind of stuff that's happening is so shall I say, vicious, that's actually disturbing you, then it might be a good idea to even go for legal action. Of course, you should go and follow up with the police so that they can register an FIR, because the police would have invariably kind of a working relationship with a lot of these service providers, and they will be able to get the details of the internet protocol address, which was used for the purposes of either creating the false ID or for the purposes of treating false information. That is one option. The second bigger option is trying to be more cautiously careful of what you publish online. Whether you are a celebrity, whether you are a layperson, please realize that internet as a paradigm never sleeps, it never forgets. So do not be in a great amount of hurry to publish anything about yourself, either for the purposes of reaching out to your followers, your fans, or whatever. Take due care and caution, and only once you're very crystal clearly convinced that what you're publishing is not going to come back and hit you back, you should go and publish. And always never publish anything with an emotional state of mind, because it's so easy to publish something and then repent at leisure for time to come. I think internet is a very unforgiving medium. Unfortunately, the Indian government has not given the kind of importance to cyber trolling, cyber harassment, cyber stalking as what it should have been given. I would dealt with India's first case of cyber stalking 20 years back. And that was the time that, we hoped that the IT Act at that point of time would cover that. It did not. We hoped in 2008, the amendments to the IT Act would cover these. They did not. So today, when you troll somebody, it's not an offense under the Information Technology Act. You stalk someone, it's not an offense under the IT Act. Of course, under 2008 amendments, we had come up with the famous Section 66A of the IT Act, which we were invariably invoking in a number of cases pertaining to trolling or harassment. But the Supreme Court struck down that section as being violative of the Indian Constitution. So today, the trolls know there's nothing that can catch hold of them. The Indian law enforcement agencies are completely clueless of trying to track these guys. In any case, even if they're clued, for them, these kinds of matters are very, very low priority areas, and therefore they're not likely to get the kind of significance or importance. And finally, I think there's a complete lack of a user-friendly approach amongst the law enforcement agencies vis-a-vis victims. You go and try reporting this, most of the time you yourself are seen in a great kind of element or color of suspicion, saying you are yourself the perpetuator or the criminal rather than being the victim. I think this completely insensitive approach of the law enforcement agencies have tended to scare people far more. And therefore, people have got reconciled to the scenario. Well, this is something that they will have to live up to. But I think, as is rightly said, you will have to wake up. You will have to start talking. Yes, to the large extent, please realize, please adopt the methodology of elephant who walks on his way while there are dogs that are barking all around. But supposing if the dog is going to bite the elephant is not going to be quiet. It's going to respond back. So your response has to be pretty much measured. But as far as possible, do not igniting more fires on the internet, because already this fire is a big challenge to deal with. On top of it, if you're going to be aggressive, if you're going to be very, very offensive in your counter offense, it could also get things out of control. So I think it will be a balanced approach that's required. But ultimately, the law has failed to serve the interests of the victims of cyber bullying, cyber trolling, cyber harassment. No wonder these have become topmost, shall I say, phenomenon in educational institutions. And during lockdown, when the Indians were all inside, the internet was a fantastic medium to give vent to all their sexual perversions and fantasies.
When do you say that there is a, how do you differentiate between free speech and trolling? Because a person has a right to free speech, right to freedom of speech and expression. So where is the distinction? Could you briefly answer the question, please?
Yes, sure. Yes, there is actually there is a very thin line of difference. Free speech comes with reasonable restrictions, and when a person is going beyond the boundaries that that any civil discourse allows, that would the person would be going into the territory of a troll. So free speech, again, you are encouraged to lay down your opinion in a reasonable manner. If it's a reasoned debate and you're putting forth your point and it is well taken, it is okay. But once you go out of that and you enter into the personal territory of a person, you pass hateful, snide comments, personal comments on that person, then of course it will go in the category of trolling and bullying of the person.
Yeah, that's very, very helpful. Now I have another question for Mr. Singh. Mr. Singh, a question has been imposed that in a lot of cases, the victims are scared to approach the complaints and they do not want to pursue these matters because, like you said, pursuing is the solution. So this has been asked by Mr. Sabi Ahmed. He's an advocate and he has asked that, do you think that police has a role to ensure that before such incidents happen, and if they happen, then how can police reduce these incidents and act suo moto?
Yeah, as Mr. Duggal has said, every matter should be reported. One should not get discouraged that action is not being taken. Irrespective of not action taking place, one should keep lodging the complaint. One should not desist from it. Because sometimes what happens when time comes to take action, we find that there's no timely complaint. We have experienced this thing in many important cases. Maybe for some good time, action has not been taken, but there should be complaint on record. This is very important.
Thank you. There's another question. There are two questions, actually. These two questions are from Mr. Pavan Duggal. What they're asking is, Zareen is saying that the intermediary guidelines of 2011, they makes it mandatory for all these intermediaries to publish their privacy policy online and to report such incidents. But there is no punishment for the violation of the same. And Mr. Ashish Rastogi is asking you a question. He's saying that in such cases where these incidents are not being reported, how do you think that what kind of mechanism and how these complaints can actually be pursued by the complainants?
First and foremost, yes, you're bang on target. One of the key defects of the information technology rules are that they do not really provide the consequences for non-compliance with the same. Of course, you can broadly argue that if a service provider or an intermediary is not going to go ahead and comply with these parameters, then he can be or she can be seen to be in violation of their fundamental duty of exercise of due diligence under Section 79(2)(c) of the IT Act. And if that's so, it can effectively be argued that these service providers are not entitled to the statutory exemption from legal liability. So they are likely to be sued in the same capacity as a co-accused. But unfortunately, there's not much clarity. Regarding the second question, well, in terms of what really needs to be done, a couple of things. One, of course, is please follow with a police complaint, and if an FIR can get registered, that's even better, because then the police can get those details. In case if the police is not registering the FIR for whatever reason, that does not really stop you from going ahead and filing a petition under 156(3) CRPC in the court of the Metropolitan Magistrate and getting an order to the local police to go ahead and register and investigate the matter.
Thank you. Zareen, you have an experience and you have been fighting for this cause for a very long time. In fact, you are one of the first few celebrities who in fact spoke about it. You have the experience of hosting this show, Troll Police. Do you think that, because I think one of the major grievances that you have is that these people are anonymous, they are sitting somewhere in the comfort of their homes. Do you think there should be a mechanism like having a verified account, or people should link their Aadhaar or something with their accounts to avoid these fake profiles, etc.? What is your experience and what is your overview? How can we reduce these kind of incidents?
Well, I would really honestly not know the political things related to this, like adding your Aadhaar card and all. But yes, there has to be some law, some rule where a person cannot be making a fake ID, because most of these trolls, they do not have the courage to actually come and troll you from their own identification. They always use a fake ID. They always use a fake name. No username, some place where you can't really trace them. So the show that I did, MTV Troll Police, I was actually on both sides of the thing. I was first a guest and then I was hosting it. When I was a guest and they traced the person who was trolling me, you won't believe it, he was a teenager, a really young boy, and you would not even believe that behind that faceless user ID there was this kid. So what do? Like, you're so angry that this person has said these things to you, but when you actually find out who that person is, he is almost a kid. So now you don't even know how to behave with this person, because you're as shook by the whole thing that a kid is doing something so major, saying things which is not even supposed to know. So yes, there has to be, I mean, I don't know about linking the Aadhaar card and all, but there has to be some laws, some rules from maybe the social media portal itself, the different portals that we have, like YouTube, your Instagram, your Twitter, Facebook, and so on, that only, identified people and, people, fake IDs, there has to be a ban on the fake IDs, because it's the fake IDs behind which these, trolls do their dirty job.
But do you think, Zareen, that even in the industry, the women are targeted more, there is more violence against women than the male celebrities, the male actors?
Yes, I feel so, because women are highly objectified, I mean, they don't really feel wrong in even writing about certain body parts of a woman, and they think it's okay, and I don't understand this whole concept, and I don't understand that how do they think that they have so much freedom. And I will again come back to the whole thing that it's because of lack of awareness that, because these people think that they're not going to get punished. There is no cyber law, there is no cyber punishment in our country, so it's okay to do it, But yes, women are highly objectified, and, they suffer from rape threats to abuses to being objectified to being morphed with like on nude bodies. I mean, and it's there has to be a stop to this. There has to be some certain definite law that is going to really scare these people to do it, because I have come to realize one thing, that till the time fear is not instilled, people don't really give a damn.
I completely agree. I think deterrence is very important. And Dr. Duggal was rightly very, very right when he said that cyber laws are not taken that seriously, and, these offenses, because, there is no separate offense of trolling or bullying.
Exactly.
It is all covered under.
Most of them are not aware. Most of them are not aware. Like, right now, everybody has an access to a mobile phone with internet, whether he is an educated person or an uneducated person. So, and, somehow the illiteracy rate in our country is somehow higher compared to the literacy rate. So even those people have their phones. They have no idea about the laws, the rules, the punishments that are going to, the consequences of trolling. So I think awareness on a large scale has to be, spread, so that these people who are not well educated and are using internet and are thinking that it's okay to just drop and abuse or objectify a, person's body part and all of that, it's okay. So there has to be awareness against it.
Thank you so much, Zareen. Dr. Sidhu, my question to you is that, a lot of cases we have seen that these, like rightly pointed by Zareen, that some of them were teenagers. Do you think there is some role of parents in educating their children, or parents should be held liable, or perhaps, students in school and universities should be open up to speak about such issues with their teachers, that comfort should be given? Can you please tell us something briefly about this?
Before I take up that question, in the sense, because you need to understand the psychology of these trolls. Who are these? Why are they indulging in this behavior? Once we understand the psychology, then we can actually come to the familial part and the role of the school and probably the university systems. A study was conducted in 2014 or 15 in Canada by a few academicians, and they tried to find out what is the possible personality traits that these normal people have when they turn into trolls, and they found out that they are very high on sadism, psychopathy, and machiavellism. And also, they also found that they are particularly high on this one particular aspect, which is called as cognitive empathy. Cognitive empathy, actually, what is it? It is a kind of an emotion which makes a person realize, how will the other person take this kind of a comment. So they are very high on cognitive empathy. That means that they are adept at recognizing what is going to upset someone, and knowing that they are going to push the right button, and after that they will disassociate. So they do not have the effective empathy, which will help people like you and me understand that we are inflicting this kind of psychological pain and distress on the other person.
Thank you, Dr. Sidhu. We have another question for Zareen. As a celebrity, when you see these trolls on a daily basis, how do they affect your mental state? And whether there have been any instances which have, something extremely mean has been said to you and that has actually affected your personal life or your professional life?
As I said, that I don't really give a lot of heed to this, and especially I realized this after doing the show that I did, MTV Troll Police, because when I was face to face with my troll, he did not have the guts to say the same things that he had written to me, those abuses and all those demeaning things. When he was standing right in front of me, he did not have the courage to say that to my face. So that itself shows that these people do not have the courage. They can only hide behind fake ID or, something fake. When they are in their full glory in front of you, they do not have the guts to say the same things to you. So when a person who has written such mean things to you, and when you meet that person face to face, that person does not have the guts to say those things to you, in itself, that itself shows that this is not something that you need to be worried about, because these are, as Ms. Sidhu rightly said, I too feel that these are disturbed people, because even this troll that was brought face to face to me was a disturbed person. He came from a very disturbed family background where, his parents had issue, then he had at a teenage, and he had a relationship which went bad, so he was depressed about that. So all that frustration was coming out in this form. But when he came face to face with me, he had no guts to say or even open his mouth. He was so scared. He was so scared that, he was scared that I'm going to do something to him, or, I'm going to hit him, or I don't know what, but he was really, really scared. So how do you get bothered about something like a person like that? They definitely have disturbed mindsets. Otherwise, I think no person in their right frame of mind would just come to somebody, whom they don't even know closely and give so much hate.
Now, the last question, because I'm sure we have taken too much of time. I'm sure Zareen would be in a hurry because she's the busiest amongst all. But anyway, one question.
So none of us are busy. We're all in the house thanks to COVID-19.
No, but many of us are present here to see you. more than me or anybody, because we have done so many webinars. So people were very excited. So Zareen, one last question to you. Many females have asked me this question who are attending this webinar. They have said that you are my person with a strong mind and a strong-headed person. You have a strong personality. That's why for you it is easy to ignore these kind of trolls and But like you see, women in online space get maximum slandering, sexualized verbal abuse, and defaming campaigns for speaking their minds and for showing themselves as strong, because there is some gender bias. What advice would you give to these young women who are college students, because some of them just get depressed when they see such incidents happening, and you're like,
Well, I'm not saying to completely ignore them, but the thing is, you have to understand that not everybody can be replied to, because the social media is a huge, vast medium. Not everybody can be replied to. Not every negative comment can be replied to. But what you can do is, if something that has really, is something that is really affecting you or playing in your mind, take a screenshot of that, negative comment and post it publicly so that everybody else gets to know. And trust me, I have done this. Lately, I was trolled for, some stretch marks on my stomach, and it became such a big issue. And, there were these trolls who were writing negative things. And I actually took screenshots of those and I posted it on my account, pointing out those trolls. And I did not even have to, I gave them, of course, the answer as to, first of all, why my stomach was such an issue of worry for them in their lives, because it has nothing to do with them. But when they were publicly humiliated, and then they started getting hate comments, they stopped. So you have to bring these people in light, that, because they think that they're just going to pass a snide comment and then just hide, and, then that'll keep playing in your mind. Don't let it play in your mind. Bring it out publicly so that, people know who is doing this. Because trust me, the social media is such a medium where at one place we have these trolls, these negative people, but at the other end you have this vast support in, your fans, your people, who then take up on themselves to protect you from these people who are trying to spread negativity towards you.
One last question from my side, Zareen. You have been, this is my question. I've also seen one of your interviews where you were pointing that cyberbullying and trolling, you have faced, apart from these body shaming and all, you have also encountered issues that you are being compared to Katrina Kaif, who was also a friend of yours or perhaps in the same industry. Yeah. So how does that affects, how does it, whether it hurts, how do you perceive that, people comparing and not appreciating your own identity and your talent?
That was, of course, there in the beginning. And see, just being compared to somebody, I don't think that is, being trolled, because that is a part and parcel of my industry. Like, if any new face comes, they're always compared to somebody. Like when Preeti Zinta came, she was compared to Amrita Singh. When Amisha Patel came, she was compared to Neelam. So just comparing somebody is no big deal, because they're not really saying anything bad about you. But in my case, in the beginning, I was not just compared, I was giving names. Like, Katrina is called Katrina, but because I am on physically a little bigger than her, I was called Fatrina. So I was given these kinds of names, and somehow these trolls were none other than our media. That time, I'm not talking about social media, I'm talking about journalism. So nothing could be done that time, because I was a very, new person. I did not belong from a filmy background where they would be a little scared to say something about me, because people from my family would come and straighten them out. I started as a nobody. I did not have any, person in my family who belonged to this film industry. So they said it's okay to do that to me. But I'm very happy that, I had the love and support of my fans, majority. I mean, yes, there is a, you can, as you say, you can be the juiciest peach in the world, but there'll still be somebody who don't like peaches. So not everybody can like you, but I'm still happy that I have a major section of, you know, the people who like me, and they are the ones who supported me, and it's only thanks to their love and support that, you know, I've been able to come such a long way after all the trolling, after all the criticism that was, you know, thrown my way. And today I have, you know, been able to make my own identity here, because nobody wants to live under anybody else's shadow. And everybody, they always want to make a mark of their own, and that is what I have always been trying to do in my life. And luckily, after 10 years of struggle and my journey, you know, people know me by my name rather than, you know, calling me a lookalike or competitor.
You're absolutely right. Thank you, Zareen. And that was actually very, very insightful. And we all, I'm sure many of your fans were excited when I told them that Zareen Khan is joining. So you have your own identity. And we all are pretty impressed with the work that you have done in your movies.
तो आई होप ये वीडियो आपको अच्छा लगा. बहुत ही इंफॉर्मेटिव वीडियो था अबाउट साइबर क्राइम, कि साइबर बुलिंग, साइबर ट्रोलिंग के खिलाफ क्या एक्शंस लिए जा सकते हैं. प्लीज अगर आपको ये वीडियो पसंद आया है तो इसे लाइक करें, ज्यादा से ज्यादा शेयर करें, ताकि और भी लोगों को ये इंफॉर्मेशन मिल पाए, और मेरे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करें. सी यू सून.